Are you down to read a book that bans teen vigilantes but doesn't solve the issues that make them want to be heroes in the first place? Well, it's time for you to pick up Champions #1 2020 out this week. Let's talk about it. I'm Jacob Knight, welcome back to my channel, and ignore the fact that the cameras move. Like this balloon arch, my hopes are also inflated and dying. But you know what isn't dying? My favorite team in Marvel history, the Champions, and today we're going to be talking about the event Outlawed as well as the Champions. Now let me tell you something. Before we get into Champions, let me just give you a brief summary of who they are, what they do, in case you have no idea who these kids are. Champions is a team that was introduced as part of the Marvel Now wave of comics. Basically, this team sprung out of the all-new, all-different Avengers, which basically was formed by Amadeus Cho, Miss Marvel, Kamala Khan, Miles Morales, Spider-Man, and Sam Alexander Nova, as well as Vision and past Cyclops, Scott Summers. Don't worry about the past part. Now, these young kids were like, hey, so we noticed that the adults deal with a lot of stupid, a lot of dumb things, and there are people dying right now, and instead of getting wrapped up in comic drama, how about we just go help them? How about we go help people? The craziest idea, yet the simplest thing you could think of as a superhero. So these kids get together, they help kids across the world, they help religiously oppressed children, they go around and they do humanitarian projects and they bring relief, and it's a real fun book. If you haven't read it, 100% recommend, especially if you're a new reader. It gets you into a vibe of the Champions, real fun, and you don't have to know the characters. You kind of learn who they are as you go along. So 100% grab it. Before we get into this new book, we need to talk about Outlawed itself. In the Outlawed special, the Champions were there guarding a student activist who wanted to preach against industrialism, corporations, etc., etc. The same thing we've heard about for years, yet no one has done anything, because no one cares. But the Champions care, so that's why they were there. So the Champions are attacked, freaking a dragon shows up, and the mission goes south. And people are hurt, missing, possibly even killed. And guess what? The government's like, hey, how about instead of solving the issue, we just blame a bunch of teenagers and throw them in jail instead of stopping the actual bad guys. So that's what they did. And that's what the entirety of this series is about. Blaming teens and leaving corporations alone. So Champions #1 picks up right after this whole Outlawed event. It's a mini event within the scope of the Marvel Universe. Basically, anybody who's a teen vigilante is technically outlawed by the United States government, with a special organization called Cradle, which will pretty much arrest teenagers for vigilantism. And that's where this whole story starts. And so if this is something you're interested in, go buy it. Comic book store locator down in the description below, as well as the Marvel link, whatever. But if you already read it or you just don't care about spoilers, let's get into the story. The writer here is Eve L. Ewing with art by Simone DeMille. They, as well as their whole team, has really put a lot of love into issue 1 of the Champions. They open really dramatically with Miss Marvel proclaiming, hey guys, the fight's not over and we can do this. The book gets you up to code on what some people are feeling about the situation, those who are against it and those who are for it, as well as introducing kind of the main characters we'll see here. Of course, it assumes you've read Outlawed, but just in case you can't, it does give a brief overview of what's currently going on. Now basically, this is the POV. We start out with Miles Morales, Spider-Man, who's just like, hey, I have a baby sister, my family's together, maybe it's time for me to quit. But then after joining in a secret meeting of the Champions, you know, the young adult group, they get ambushed, and it turns out that they were sold out. Nadia Pym Wasp, as well as Bombshell, get captured, and the rest of the Champions flee in separate directions, and that's where the book leaves off. So not everyone certainly agrees with it. In fact, some heroes, like in the New Warriors book, will feature a team of young adults who are being mentored by older adults, and they're legally allowed to work because they're under the supervision of the government. There's division not only within the superhero teen group, but also youth over the nation as a whole. So many of them believing, hey, the government's right, you shouldn't be unregistered and unlicensed in doing this, and others are saying, hey, they're fighting back. This is what they need to do. This is what they are created for. The art here is really great. I love the framing of the action as well as the more intimate moments, and there's great coloring here that reminds me of sort of like a spray can painted aesthetic, which within confines of borders, so it's like these vibrant colors within these sharp striking images. The art works really well together, so the team did a great job. And Eve Ewing did a nice job of just bringing those who have already known knowledge of the champions, as well as those who have no knowledge of the champions, fresh jumping on point to the team. And I'm excited to see where it goes next, because if you haven't read it, I'm going to try not to spoil, but there's a little hint that somebody didn't die in a comic book and maybe they've gone evil, ? So yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes, and I'm a big fan of the champion, so if you want to pick it up, I mean, I'm not going to stop you. Go do it, coward. I'm really excited to see how the book travels within the exploration of the topic itself. Of course, the government is very silly for banning these teenage superheroes instead of directly going after the issues and problems that made them have to fight for their own survival in the first place. Of course, that's bad, but they have some reasonable points, and there are reasonable points on both sides, even though clearly the teenage heroes are right and the government's wrong. So I'm excited to see how the interpersonal relationships and perspectives of each characters kind of form the story, and who pushes what and who betrays them but who doesn't. So I'm excited to see where the story really leads to. So you've liked this quick summary of this comic book. Let me know in the comments down below. Did you want me to keep going on and on about the reasons I like it? Did you feel like my opinions were shallow and that I'm terrible? Let me know in the comments. Remember, if I get you 100 subscribers, I'll stop filming in front of a wall. I'll get a proper backdrop. I'll put a bunch of nerdy things, and I'll have that real geeky YouTuber aesthetic down, and that'll be nice. So if you liked all this, let me know in the comments down below. Remember, do not like and do not subscribe, but please comment. I'll check you later. Like this balloon arch. Like... I need to be inside. Like this balloon arch. My hopes are also